It is like somebody's taking the blinders off you. This rapid cash program is something more than just you show up on a couple of days over a weekend. This program is good even for people who are just starting out, people who just want to take advantage of some opportunities that have come up other than long-term buy and hold. Strategies that we're going to talk about, it's applicable in all markets all across the country. We'll be surrounded by like-minded people. It's an incredibly supportive community. So when we say rapid cash, we mean get money not in years and years, but in potentially months. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to get started. So the rapid cash program coming up May 7th and 8th. You'll see more about that as we move along. But what we're looking to do on the Monday main event is to show up and talk about creative real estate, bring on experts. We've had folks on to talk about tax, how to set up your corporate structure. Andrea Workington told us about her mutual fund trust. We've heard about the insurance industry. Lots of experts, lots of you folks on telling us about creative deals you've done and just interesting creative real estate things. So that's what we do typically on a Monday. We're leading up to our rapid cash event, May 7th and 8th. First time in 3 years, first live event. I can't believe how tired I am of doing Zoom stuff. Not today. Of course not today. I'm looking forward to today. And speaking of today, what we're going to do is just give you a taste of what you might find when you show up at the rapid cash event, if you're of a mind to do so. And that is some deep dive discussions on creative strategies and how you fit creative strategies together. So today we're going to talk about fix and flip, some really short-term fix and flip, and how you can put that together with the agreement for sale strategy, which can be a no money down strategy. So it's fix and flip hooked up with agreements for sale today, and we're going to get started right now. Wayne Hillier is going to join in and help us out every once in a while when he's of a mind to. So we're going to share the screen right away here and
hey, everybody,
get her going. Choose what to share. Donna's sharing. There we are. Hey, Wayne.
We got her. How's everybody doing on Monday?
Monday. Well, I always wonder about Mondays.
What about them?
Yeah, it's a busy day. My day starts about 5:30 and finishes today at 5 o'clock. And
yikes.
And there's lots in between. But hey, I know your day's just like that, Wayne.
Yeah, it is.
Everyday radio show leading into lots of stuff during the day. And then I'm sure you're not sitting around in your armchair at night.
Same as you, starting at 5:30.
Yeah, 5:30. It's a great time to get up. Okay, let's get going, folks, on our discussions of agreements for sale and fix and flip. So this is really powerful when you combine creative strategies. All of these strategies work really well on their own, but when you combine them, and if you know how to combine them, they're like supercharged. So that's an element that I want you to understand. So we're gonna talk about the strategies. We're gonna look at some case studies. I love case studies because these are the real thing. These are real deals that have happened, and it's always instructive to see how somebody else went at their creative strategy and their deal. And of course, there's always time for questions for you. So yes. We really think that you have to open up your mind to the fact that there are all of these possibilities. Wayne, am I right? Is it important to understand these strategies to really get the possibilities?
Yeah, you really don't know what you don't know, and we're gonna blow your mind.
Yeah. All right. All right. So we, just to be clear, we do definitely believe in long-term buy and hold is really the bedrock of most real estate investors' portfolio, including my portfolio and my wife Donna's. Wayne and Gabby have lots of long-term buy and hold in theirs, and most people do. But after a while, you can't qualify for any more mortgages. Let's say you bought 2, 3, 4 properties. The rules change from time to time, but you just can't qualify for all the properties that you want to buy. Plus, what about that deposit money? If you get a 20% down mortgage and 20% deposit and an 80% mortgage, and it's a $400,000 property, that's an $80,000 deposit. That's a lot of coin to have to save up every time you want to buy a property. Plus, if you're flipping and fixing, the fixing part is you have to renovate and you need money to do that. So, you just might not have enough money to carry on and buy all the properties you want to buy. So, you just sort of shred those opportunities because you can't write the check. Absolutely not. You got to consider what else you can do. And if you understand these strategies, you will recognize the opportunities. I'm going to say that a few times as we go through this, as we go through it. And the more effort you put into the educational side of your real estate business, the more success and the easier it will be for you to recognize those opportunities. All right, so today we're going to do an overview of the fix and flip and AFS strategies, and we really hope to inspire you. We hope that you'll come away from today with saying to yourself, you know what, I can do this too. I can do it. I understand it. I can do it. I understand there's going to be some hard work and there'll be inspiration and perspiration, but I can do it. And I also want you to understand that really success in this creative real estate business is when you are a solution provider. In the creative real estate space, you're able to do deals because people have problems and you have solutions. And really importantly, it's a win-win solution because we never beat people up. We never take advantage of people. We show them a different path if what we've got on offer isn't the best thing for them. If you know a different path they could take that would provide a solution, it's not your path. You know what? We tell them there's always another deal. All right. So, Wayne, this seems like a pretty simple definition of fix and flip, but what do you think?
Yeah, I think fix and flip is pretty easy to understand for most people. You've mentioned it many times. I think it's probably the most well-known strategy, across Canada or the world in general. Everybody knows that you can buy a house, do a little bit of renovation, sell it for more, make a little bit of change, really quick in and out, fast cash.
Yeah. So like a lot of the creative strategies, it's pretty simple to explain. Just as Wayne did, and just as the screen shows you, buy below market, put a little money in, doesn't have to be much, and then you sell it and make some money. So that's a simple enough thing to say. Now, on the other side of it, an agreement for sale. What is an agreement for sale? Firstly, those words, agreement for sale, are not the same as agreement of purchase and sale or agreement of sale. An agreement for sale specifically means that this is a seller financing deal. The seller is your bank in any AFS deal. So Wayne and I did this presentation for the Real Estate Investment Network last week, and we explained there the best way to understand an agreement for sale, if you're kind of just getting started, is to go through these three scenarios. So we have a classic $400,000 situation. Seller's got a property for sale. He wants $400,000. You have only $25,000. Now, remember, we said that on the a 20% deposit, 80% mortgage deal, your deposit would be $80,000. You don't have $80,000. And even if you did, the bank doesn't want to give you any more money. You've got $25,000. The seller has a clear title. Lucky him, he's paid off his mortgage, doesn't have one thing against it. So what do you do with this? Well, we've already said that the seller is your bank, and we've got this brick wall between you and the seller because there are things that don't go over the wall. But seller's your bank. Here's here, you write it up. In the purchase contract, doesn't matter what kind of a purchase contract you have, in the terms section, you write that this is a sale by way of agreement for sale. And you show the deposit you've got of $25,000 you owe the seller $375,000, which is a loan that you will negotiate with the seller. He's like going to charge you some interest and you're going to make payments. But the purchase price is $400,000. So that's the clear title example. Now let's look at the next scenario. In this one, the seller is not so lucky. He hasn't quite paid off his mortgage. He's got $100,000 left on a mortgage. Still wants $400,000. You still only have $25,000. All right, there's the seller on his side of the brick wall with his mortgage now instead of his clear title. He's being your bank. And yeah, again, you negotiate what the terms of that $375,000 loan are. You make a payment to the seller based on that $375,000 loan. And the seller takes a chunk of that payment that you're making, and he makes his mortgage payment on his $100,000 loan, and he puts the rest in his pocket. So this is a scenario where the seller can, make some money, just like he did in the last scenario with a clear title mortgage or a small mortgage. And then in our last scenario, the seller has a mortgage that is $375,000. So the seller still wants $400,000. You still have $25,000. There's the seller sitting on his side of the brick wall with his $375,000 mortgage, and the seller is your bank. So you write it up. It looks the same in all of the three contracts that you would write up. You probably have a financing schedule to add some more details. But in this case, the seller is lending you $375,000. And in this scenario, almost always the terms of the $375,000 loan from the seller are exactly the same as the terms of his underlying $375,000 loan. Same interest rate, same maturity date, same payment. So you make a payment to the seller on his loan to you. He turns around, takes that payment, and exactly makes his payment to his bank. So I think, Wayne, it's important for people to see that the AFS strategy can work whatever is going on with the seller.
Yes, it's very flexible. And I wanted to point out while you pointed the direction to me for a second, I put the link below here for the Rapid Cash Workshop on May 7th through 8th. If this is sounding a little confusing to you and you're trying to figure out what the heck is this agreement for sale thing all about, there's a workshop, a 2-day workshop coming up in Calgary on May 7th through 8th. That's going to go through this and all the other creative strategies that Barry McGuire teaches. So I can just imagine there's a few of you that are like deer in headlights right now and have no idea what the heck we're talking about. But stay tuned. We're going to explain a little bit more, get a little more detail. And then if you guys have any more questions or are interested in learning more about this, definitely do check out that workshop. I think if Donna can put the link in the comments, that'd be phenomenal.
All right. Thank you for that, Wayne. Thank you for that. All right. So let's move on to you, our valued watchers. So you've actually got you've found an undervalued property. Good for you. You got to find those undervalued properties when you're doing fix and flip. Very difficult to buy a property at market value and make it a successful fix and flip. So you've got one, you've got a property under an agreement for sale contract. Now what? So we just were, kind of at the beginning talking about the basic fix and flip. You buy it, you renovate it, you sell it, you make some cash. And that's the first one. The fix and flip is actually rapid cash. But Wayne, what about these other strategies? I think you're familiar with most of these.
Yep. So the fix and refi. So that's commonly known as the BRRRR. That's when you'll do a fix flip and then refinance it at the new appraised value. Hopefully get all your money out. Then there's a variation of that. There's a fix and refi with rent to own. Now that's like the BRRRR, but instead of putting it in your portfolio as a rental property, you put it in your portfolio as a rent to own property, which is just really just mixing up those creative combinations, eh? That's a really good one. I mean, if you want to get all your money out and plus some, that's a really great strategy right there. Love it. And then you've got a sign. So if you've got a fix and flip deal, it's really great. but you don't have the means to do it, or perhaps you'd rather just collect some fast cash without having to do the renovations. You can just assign your interest in that property for a consideration, and then someone else can take that deal off your hands, and then they can go and renovate it and flip it. You just take a little bit of change for a little bit of cash for putting the deal together. And then lastly, joint venture, which I'm assuming, okay, so that's not a fix and flip scenario. That's just a rental. Is that what the example is?
Yeah, so it's a fix and flip where you need the cash to do your renovation. So you don't have the cash; you're able to find the property, but you joint venture with somebody who does have the cash, so that maybe you can buy it, and maybe they also supply the money to do the renovation. And it's good point. As we go through these, folks can see that we're never, except in the first scenario, the fix and flip where you sell it for rapid cash, except in that scenario, we're kind of talking about joining up other strategies with the fix and flip strategy, which I said before really supercharges all of these strategies. So, if you control a property, you can do a lot with it. You can do a lot with it. And so, for anybody who's looking for property, who's marketing, who has websites and is doing other forms of marketing where you hear about deals, there does come a time. I know maybe some folks who are just starting out especially will find this hard to believe, but when you get going and start marketing, you will occasionally find more deals coming your way than you can handle at any one time. Now, Wayne,
I just got one texted to me while we're doing this presentation.
Really?
Someone's got a deal. They said, "Hey, do you want it?" I just
go.
literally texted me. I was glancing over it as you were talking.
And so, somebody's offering Wayne a deal, and Wayne might have a couple or three things on his plate, but, for one that he can't do very much work on, he might get it under contract and assign it. So he would get it under contract and sell his control of that contract to somebody else and still make a few dollars, meanwhile carrying on with his other projects. But it's all about control. If you can control a property, you've got lots of exits, lots of opportunities, lots of strategies to extract the most amount of money from that property. So let's look at some examples. This is the most basic example. We haven't detailed some of the costs in here. It's just a basic example. If you buy a property by way of agreement for sale for $145,000, and you might be able to get this property for no money down. I mean, you can buy condos in Edmonton and other places in Alberta, and I think places in Saskatchewan and maybe some places in northern BC. I mean, it's a rare rare situation in lots of parts of Canada where you can buy anything for $145,000, but those are still on offer in Alberta. And you can buy a condo, and maybe even sometimes a house, smaller house, for no money down. So you can get control of a property for for zero money, and a seller being your bank for $145,000. So you fix it, which is you renovate. You have some holding costs that $40,000, and in the end, you've got an after repaired value, and you are able to sell it for $225,000. So your profit in there, not taking into account maybe some of your selling expenses, is $40,000. If you sell it privately, you may not have to deal with a realtor, but that's the most basic fix and flip. Let's go on to something that.
Do you mind if I just add in the benefits of the agreement for sale portion of that?
Absolutely, get in there, Wayne.
So a lot of people are wondering, well, why an agreement for sale? Why would you add that in there? One of the key things that doesn't really break down in this slide is that the holding costs are significantly less when you're using the seller's existing mortgage, because that seller probably has a nice low mortgage payment with because of a nice low interest rate. Whereas if you're trying to buy a property for fix and flip and you want to go to You want to go to a normal mortgage lender who deals with short-term financing for fix and flips, you're going to be paying 12, 15% with lender fees as well. It can be very costly. So those holding costs will go up by thousands. If you can go directly to a seller and get them to keep the financing in there, give the seller financing, keep the existing financing that they already have in place, you could take advantage of their low interest rate, save yourself a whole heck of a lot of money on carrying costs or holding costs, carrying costs, and save yourself a lot of money. So win-win. You're able to help them out of a situation. At the same time, you're also benefiting from the nice low payments.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that, Wayne. I think I'm just thinking ahead to the Rapid Cash Program, May 7th and 8th. I think we're going to go into some deeper dive, more detail on what it takes to borrow money from a short-term lender in terms of the broker fees that you have to pay, the finder fees, the lender fees, and then those interest costs of 12 to 15%. So that can add up a lot, and it's easy to sort of say it, but I'm going to go through, we'll get some examples of what those could actually be. I got 3 of those on my desk right now, and I can give live examples of what those costs are. So if you're going to get the seller to be your lender with his 2.5% mortgage, thousands of dollars ahead. So that's a good point, Wayne. Thank you for that. Okay, now I think, Wayne, this is a deal that you're intimately familiar with. So
Yes.
Yeah, so why don't you lead us through this one, including, I want you to expand on the notion of trust that we think is so important as you work your way through this.
Yeah, I'm just quickly refamiliarizing myself with it. It was a few years ago, but this one here was an interesting story. And with creative strategies, it's not like you just say, I'm going to implement one, and then that's just the way that it's always going to go. A lot of times what'll happen is you'll have an opportunity come across your desk, and you're like, okay, how the heck do I make this work? What tools and strategies can I put together to make this thing work? So this was it was a wholesale deal from a wholesaler. It was actually an investor who had it locked up. They had control of it. They had assigned it to someone else for a fee, but I guess that other person, for whatever reason, they were unable to finish the deal. So it fell back into this investor's hands, and I guess he was unconditional, so he had to close on it. So he reached out to me and asked if I wanted it. It didn't really work. He said, what if I carry the financing for you and give you an agreement for sale? So he was able to secure funds and to provide me an agreement for sale. So I didn't need to go out and look for a private lender. Just timing wise, I needed a lot of things in place, and that was one of them in order to get it done on time. So he gave me a 1-year agreement for sale at 12% interest. It was interest only payments. And he talked about trust a second ago. One other condition that I had was that the seller would add me onto title for my convenience. And there was a reason for that, was because I was actually going to be, the plan for this property is I was going to add a secondary suite to the basement and renovate upstairs, but I wanted to refinance it afterwards. So I wanted to be on title in order to be able to do that, because I wanted to do a BRRRR. Because I had a pre-existing relationship with this investor, he agreed, which was fantastic, because otherwise, way too complicated for today. But with agreement for sales, it's quite difficult to get a refinance if you're not on title. So trust was key for this, because I don't think that I would be able to get on title with any other person. So the fact that I had built a relationship with them and that they trust me, they agreed to put me on title. So as I mentioned before, the exit strategy for this was to add a secondary suite, renovate the whole house, refinance it, and then add it as one of my rental properties in my portfolio. Afterwards, we added in the joint venture partner, which I'll get into afterwards. Okay, so purchase price was $260,000 by way of agreement for sale. The full renovation, and with including the secondary suite addition, was $130,000 renovation. We once it was completed, the appraisal came in at $445,000 in new value. A little lower than what we expected, but we made it work. The 80% of that $445,000, so the 80% was the new mortgage that we were refinancing it at, was $365,000. So when we got our new mortgage of $365,000, we paid off the old $260,000, and we paid off a good chunk of that renovation money, that good chunk of that $130,000. So after we paid all that back, we had still $44,000 of renovation money still left in that deal. Okay. So, which is pretty amazing because we got almost all of our money out except for $44,000. We're now into a $445,000 property for only $44,000. So if you do some quick math, that's about 10% in. Significantly better than 20%. After that, what we did was we added in a joint venture partner, as I mentioned before. So I found a joint venture partner who was interested in investing in real estate. I said, you know what? You can get in on this deal. I'll give you 50% of the profits for 20% down. So 20% of the appraised value, which was $445,000. So they brought 20%, which is $89,000 plus a $10,000 reserve. Okay. By doing that, I was able to now get all of my $44,000 back out of the deal, plus $45,000 paid back in my pocket. That was my equity, my profits from the renovation. A little complicated. I'll let you guys kind of walk through that again if you need to. But again, I was able to get all of my money out, plus $45,000 profit. That was my equity. And now I own 50% of that property, and it cash flows about $700 a month. Great property.
Yeah, no, that's a great story. It's really a great case study because it shows us that you can acquire a property by way of agreement for sale, one strategy. You can do the fixing part of it, another strategy. You can do a refinance, which is one of the sub fix and flip categories. And then with a joint venture partner, you have all your money back. You've got equity and $700 a month. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. It does not get any better than that, really.
I should add in, I mean, that was for no money down.
Yes.
That was no money down.
Yeah. So,
except for the renovation costs, which, let's be completely honest and transparent, a lot of the renovations were just off credit cards and line of credit.
Yeah.
So I didn't actually have to put any of my own money in it. For the down payments because the seller was carrying the financing, and as well, most of the renovation costs were through line of credit and credit card. So none of my own money was used on this. This is all OPM. And by the end of it, I had $45,000 in profits paid out to me from the renovation portion, the flip, and then I own 50% of it now going forward. It's been fantastic.
Yeah. So, it's obviously, folks, it's key when you're doing fix and flip, but the key to success is how you buy. You have to buy well. There's an old saying in real estate is you make money when you buy. Mm-hmm. And so you have to find undervalued properties. And there are undervalued properties around. They're there. You have to scramble and dig for them. I mean, they're not usually on the MLS. They come from your marketing, from your contacts, from your networking, from people sending. I mean, that's where they show up from. But they are definitely out there, and they got to be undervalued because that is your protection against cost overrun and sales not being quite as much as you think. So you have to buy well for sure. Okay, well let's do another one. I love these case studies, and this is another interesting case study because there is also an element of trust in this one, and we're gonna talk lots more at the Rapid Cash event about trust and what that really means and why it's so important. Because it does fit into many a creative deal, and it certainly fit into this one. So our student found a property where the seller was asking $295,000, and the value was $295,000. So he wasn't getting it really undervalued as he's buying, but But the seller had a $175,000 mortgage on it, and he liked our guy. He liked our student. He didn't particularly want to list it with a realtor. He wanted to do something with this property, but he didn't really want to put the effort into figuring out what to do. So when our student came along and said, I could take over your property and make you a monthly payment and be responsible for the maintenance and taxes and insurance. I got an idea. I think I could do some renovating to it, and I could add some value, and I could sell it and make some money, but I need you to be my bank. What do you think? Excuse me. Yes, I'm just going to have a sip of water here.
Seems like a pretty decent offer.
Yeah, I'm 35 days past having COVID, and I still have just a little chest cough thing going on, but I'm feeling well enough. I'm going to go play hockey tomorrow. We'll see how that goes.
Hat trick.
Right. Back to our case study. So we've got a seller who was kind of looking for some help. He listened to our student, and they agreed. So we're going to do a purchase by way of agreement for sale. We're not putting any money into this. There's no money down deal, 1-year term. And all the seller wanted was enough money to, on a monthly basis, to pay his mortgage and pay his taxes. That's all he wanted. Didn't even want insurance. So, when we get back to when we talk about financing on our last case study, we talked about how expensive it is to get short-term money from short-term lenders. I mean, when you can get it for no money down at all, I mean, it adds to your return on investment, your ROI, amazingly. All right, so that's the first part of the scenario. So here was the plan. We're gonna find a joint venturer because there was money required for the renovation, and do a total house renovation, add a secondary suite. And in this was a smaller house, so we thought it would be about $100,000 to do all that. That was the plan. Had the joint venture guy lined up, and then he backed out, which is again something we'll learn more about. When you're working with a joint venturer, and he says he can do something for you, and you go out and commit to a deal based on what your venturer says, you better be pretty sure that you got a plan B, or you've got your joint venture partner locked into that, or you're in trouble. Have you ever had that happen to you, Wayne, where some money partner committed to you and then backed out?
I have to think about it. I don't think so.
Good for you.
So nothing where I've been committed to something. Normally, I put a few different measures in place to kind of prevent that from happening, and also just to make sure everybody's on the same page. I think it's when you start getting deeper into it, and then they're like, "Oh, I didn't know that was going to be like that." Yeah. I think that's normally when things go sideways.
Yeah, that could be, and so that brings up the notion of making sure you fully explain what your deal is to your joint venture partner, and as Wayne says, put some measures in place to make sure that you're not committing yourself without your joint venture partner being committed for sure. But what do? The joint venture partner backs out, and so he doesn't have money to do this larger renovation. So, networking, works around, finds a private lender who will lend him only $60,000, so he can't really do the full renovation. But he's doing he can't add the suite, but he's going to do a tip-top renovation, both in the basement and on the main floor. But he's not doing those expensive kitchens, and costs went down by $40,000. So the private lender is going to lend $60,000. The private lender, as private lenders do, wants some security. So I'll lend you $60,000. What security you're going to give me? I need a mortgage against a property. What properties do you have that have some equity in it? And guess what? Our guy doesn't have any of those properties at the moment. So what does he do? He went to talk to his very cooperative seller, and he explained the situation with the joint venture partner backing out, that he had a private lender, and goes, this is just a shot in the dark. I'm taking a flyer here, but would you allow this private lender to secure the $60,000 mortgage against your title Mr. Seller.
I remember this deal, and I'm still blown away to this day that he was actually able to pull this off.
Yes. But, and here it is,
Yeah.
our student had established trust with this seller. The seller really liked our student. He was cooperative with him. He trusted him. And so it took him like, really? You need that? Sure. I'm okay with that. And so the seller allowed the private lender to register the mortgage against his own title. And of course, when the private lender's lawyer set this all up, he went to the seller's lawyer and he gave the seller the $60,000, who promptly handed it over to our student and said, okay, get renovating. I still can't believe that this happened. I just cannot believe that it happened. But anyway, how did it all work out? So he bought by it worked great. Bought by way of agreement for sale for $295,000. The renovation costs were $60,000. He had some closing costs, so he was $359,000 in. The after repaired value of this property is $414,000. So his profit, and I just don't recall what he did to, whether he kept the property, whether he sold the property, but if he sold it and sold privately, he was going to have a $55,000 profit. If he used a realtor, he would have some realtor's fees to pay. But the key here, folks, is that number one, he got a seller to be his bank for $295,000, zero down by way of his AFS. Got it to be short term, that he could really, a year long, but he could pay it out any time, and it didn't take him a whole year to do the renovation. Then, got his seller because of trust, to let that $60,000 mortgage get registered against the seller's own title. And so those are the real nuggets in this. I mean, apart from the fact that he assessed properly and adding, spending some dollars really added value to the property. You have to make sure that the money you spend adds proper value. And Wayne, what's your kind of ratio there? Do you think you need $2 worth of added value for every renovation dollar you spend? Do you have a formula that you use?
God, I actually I have a notorious opinion on this. I hate renovation formulas. I hate fix and flip formulas personally. So I'm just going to be honest with you. I don't. I do it case by case because not every market has not every market has the ability to go buy it for super low and sell for super high. Yeah. So like the 70% formulas and stuff like that, I've yet to find any markets where you can actually find properties that fit that. So me personally, I don't, but I know that there's lots of formulas out there.
Yeah,
that people use.
Yeah, there are lots of formulas, and maybe they're worth it for just a rough cut look at a property where you can quickly do some math using your formula. And if you're like a universe away from it being profitable, you might say, okay, this one is never going to work. But I agree, case by case basis. Neighborhoods are different, renovations are different. What a dollar does for you is different.
That's it. It's your own risk tolerance, right?
Yeah.
And you consider this to be, a good investment for your funds. Quick question, Barry. Do you want to answer questions now or at the end?
Well, why don't we answer a couple of questions now?
I think there's one or two, but it's kind of relative to what we're talking about.
Sure. Let's do that.
Francis asks, who pays the mortgage during the reno before selling? Is that part of the holding cost?
Well, if the seller has an existing mortgage, usually in an agreement for sale, in an AFS deal, you're saying to the seller, listen, I'm going to make your mortgage payment. Often that's what a seller needs, is to have the relief that he doesn't have to make the mortgage payment. So usually you're making the seller's mortgage payment, but usually you don't mind because it's a big loan at a small interest rate. So I hope that answers your question, Francis.
The second question was from a mystery Facebook user. It says private lender cost missing, but the kids still make good money. yeah, we did forget to include the holding costs for the seller's underlying mortgage payments plus the private lender costs. But
Well,
yeah,
these are
there's still some profit in there for sure.
yeah, there definitely is. All of these deals are real deals, and we're profitable. We kind of trim them down a little bit for ease of explanation, but you definitely have to do your math. You got to make sure you know your numbers, and you got to include all the costs as you do this. But these were all profitable deals. All right, so this is an interesting one. This is another real student experience. So we had a situation where the seller had lost his job, and he's used up his savings. He's broke. He doesn't have a job. He does have a legal basement suite, though. That's good, in his 3-bedroom bungalow, and he's trying to sell. Now this was a deal from probably 18 months ago, I think, maybe 24 months ago. Had the property listed, $339,900. Was really hoping, right, because the value at that time was $325,000. And the reason he had it listed at $339,900, excuse me, was because his mortgage was at $335,000. So if the market value is $325,000 and he sells at $325,000, his mortgage is $335,000. Anyway, he was trying to get $339,000 so he'd have enough to pay his lawyer and pay his mortgage and have $1,000 to go somewhere. All right. So our student looks at this and he starts to analyze it, and he asks some questions, and he's talking to the seller, and he wants some details, and he finds out that the seller has a payout penalty on his mortgage that he's just renewed of $12,576. So this would be a fixed rate mortgage, because variable rate mortgages have just a 3-month interest penalty, but fixed rate mortgages are the greater of the 3-month interest penalty, or something called the interest rate differential. And of course, you have to pay the larger of those two things to the bank. So whenever you're working with mortgage payouts, this is a little aside, whenever you're working with mortgage payouts, you got to get written confirmation from the bank what the payout penalty is. And that came home to me 2 weeks ago now, when we got a payout penalty from the bank for a seller, and he thought he had a variable rate mortgage and a 3-month interest penalty, but he had a fixed rate, and his penalty was over $15,000, which really put a crimp in his after sale plans, because he needed that $15,000. So always get a payout statement if you're thinking about a deal where there's penalties to consider. In any event,
I hate hearing those stories.
Yeah, it was a shocker for him, and he went and talked to his bank. Of course, he'd been with that bank for 30 years, and those penalties, by the way, are discretionary. They're discretionary. The bank doesn't have to charge you that penalty. The contract gives them the right to do it, but they don't have to do it. So 30 years of being a loyal bank customer didn't cut any ice. You had to pay the penalty.
Yikes.
So this seller started out on this mortgage 10 years ago, and so he's starting to get some reasonable mortgage pay down. Every month when he makes his payment, more of the money is going to principal. He was into his third 5-year closed fixed term, and so now we get down to the numbers. So our student is talking to the seller, and they're having a conversation around why our seller can only pay market value or less for a property. He can't pay $339,900. He just can't do that. But he might pay $325,000, which is the market value. So they start working on numbers. And Joe knew this. He'd been to see a realtor. He went to see a realtor, and he said, it was listed. So he'd been talking to a realtor. The realtor explained commission, that in Alberta, You pay 7% on the first $100,000 and 3% plus GST on the balance. So there was going to be realtor commission payable of $14,437. There was going to be a payout penalty of $12,576. And so, that's what the realtor is saying to the seller. Yeah, I can list it for you, but can you write a big check to sell? This is always a shock for sellers, isn't it? Sellers expect to sell and put money in their pocket. They don't think they're going to sell and have to write a check to sell. Other diligence showed that the property would be positive cash flow if both suites were rented at market rent. So what's going to go on here?
Mm-hmm.
So let's look at some of these. Let's look at some of the situations and why a student who's been to one of our courses understands how to set this up with a seller. So if the seller uses a realtor with his purchase price of $325, at the payout his mortgage, he's only going to sell it to somebody for $325,000 because nobody's going to pay more than market. He's got a mortgage to pay out. He's got a payout penalty. He's got realtor commission. It's going to cost him $37,000, $37,063 to sell using a realtor. So the seller's trapped. He's stressed. He's looking at his credit rating being ruined. He can't sleep at night. He's just going sideways from any number of directions. When our student says to him, listen, I'll buy it from you for $325,000. I'll take over the mortgage payments, taxes, insurance, and all the maintenance on the property, but I can only pay market price. So what does that mean for our student? It means that the realtor commission and the payout penalty disappear.
Mm-hmm.
That's like $27,000, $27,063 disappears. All the seller has to do is write a check to our student for $10,000 to bring the property down to the market value of $325 when you're taking over a mortgage of $335. And that's right. That's exactly what the seller did. He stroked a check. I don't know where he found it because he said he was broke, but he stroked a check for $10,000, and that's how this deal closed. So, this is not a no money down deal. This is, well, I guess from a student's perspective, it is a no money down deal because I was going to say he put $10,000 in his pocket, but it evens out because he took over responsibility for a $335,000 mortgage. But that's sellers do write checks. There's no doubt about it. There's far more deals along the line of zero money down, but sellers do write checks. So let's get on.
We've heard some pretty good stories of sellers writing checks.
We have. This is another, I think, aspect of what people learn at our rapid cash program is that you cannot predict what sellers are going to do. Sellers do things for their own good reasons, and they can be of a great benefit to you that a conventional investor would say, come on, no seller's ever going to do that.
You're never going to do that.
Never do that. What are you talking about? This is just one of many stories of real life situations where sellers do stuff you just could not predict. That's good for you. Good for you. All right. So for our seller here, he got himself a sale where he thought he wasn't going to be able to sell. I mean, this seller thought, well, I can only sell with a realtor. I've talked to this realtor. He's told me what it'll take. I don't have $37,000. I'm stuck. He's at that point thinking he's going to have to let the property go to foreclosure, which means he won't be able to probably buy a property for another 7 years because his credit will be ruined. He was able to get out from under this house, and he really wanted to actually get back to Nova Scotia, I think. And so that was what he was able to do. And he saved himself $27,000. I guess he could have gone to foreclosure and not spent any of that money, but that's a really tough credit crushing step to take. So what about our buyer? He gets a positive cash flow property for no money down, no mortgage qualification. He's getting really good equity pay down. Remember, this mortgage is in the third year, it's third 5-year term. The longer a seller has a mortgage, the more of the payment goes to paying down the principal. So we're getting great mortgage pay down equity pay down every month. And he helped a desperate seller. This poor guy, Joe, the seller, was not sleeping. So this turns out to be a real win-win deal, which we talked about at the beginning. Win-win deals are what we do, and win-win deals are what will propel you to real estate investing success. They just really do. Again, we'll talk more about why that is at the Rapid Cash event. It's a kind of a did you have to figure that out, Wayne, when you were just getting started, that win-win always is good no matter what? Or did you know that naturally, or did you have to figure that out by doing a few deals and seeing the effect of win-win?
I've told this story a few times. First time when I first took the course, and I'm full transparency and is I don't know. I kind of felt like we were taking advantage of people. The way that I first saw it, I don't know. It felt like it was all going to be a win for me. And I don't know. Maybe that was just the way that I perceived it that particular day. Maybe that was like my limited belief of like, they'll never do something like that. But when I first looked at it, I didn't feel very good about it until I had to look at it my own. I had to figure out a way to build a business with these strategies with agreement for sale in order to make it win-win, because it's I think it's super important. I don't think that I hear too many stories about people being taken advantage of with rent to own, with agreement for sale and stuff like that. And in order for me to feel good about moving forward with the strategy, it had to be win-win. It had to be.
Yeah. And then, once you really understand how win-win works, it is really mind expanding. It's calming. It's good for you. It's good for the other side. It's just plain good. So let's keep moving here.
Yeah.
Things we've learned, and this is the win-win is one of them. So I'll say again, you can't predict seller motivation. Sellers do things you will never understand and could not predict in a million years. Sellers will do some of those strange things that are good for you if you build rapport with them. If you're really looking to solve a problem, if sellers can tell that. Everybody has their own BS detector. They can tell. Sellers can tell whether you're scamming them or whether you're really trying to help them. And if they believe that you are trying to help them, they will trust you, and they will do things you can't predict. And if you're being a problem solver, you can turn lots of situations into win-win. You can turn lots of them. And when you're doing win-win deals, everybody's happy. So that any seller that you help out of a problem is only too willing to talk to his friends and family and anybody else he knows if he hears that they have a problem, and you will get calls and referrals. It feels good to help people. If you're passionate about real estate and you love doing this stuff, putting together a win-win deal will push that passion even farther and make it burn more fiercely than it already is. And win-win just it just creates opportunity around you. I hate to get all psychic on it, but I think we have an aura around us that. No, Donna doesn't think we have an aura. Okay, no aura.
I'm fairly certain. Yeah.
A little too
positivity much. Attracts positivity. There's some.
That's what I was trying to say.
Some sort of a law, some sort of attraction, or something or other. But yeah, you're absolutely right. And in my opinion, there is no other better business to create where you could be profitable and help people at the exact same time. Right? There's nothing better.
I agree. Totally agree. Well, a couple more things here, folks. So coming up, we've got a great crew of folks helping us out. Everybody you can see is an expert at various parts of the creative real estate side of things. I love all these guys. They come and they help, and I couldn't do it without them. So coming up, what else is going on? Donna has already been sending out homework to folks who have signed up for May 7th and 8th. She's got them she's given them a script, a lead sheet, as we call it. They're looking for possible deals. And so, we want you to make some calls, contact some sellers, ask them some questions using the script that's in the homework. And then when you show up at the event, our focus team will help you. They will take your lead sheet and give your seller back a call and sort of be the next caller, helping out with what you want to do. So, and of course, you get to sit and listen in. Nothing like hearing experienced people make those calls and how they can negotiate and interact and help a seller trust them and look toward doing deals. We've actually had a number of deals done at our event where focus team take your lead sheets and help you with your calls. Special price today. Use coupon code ONEDAMNDEAL for a $700 discount. $700 discount. And bonus number 3, which is only on for today, and that is we will send you our Creative Combinations Home Study Kit, which, if you want to buy it on our website, is $997. So that would be an extra value, and that's the home study kit that shows you how to connect all the creative strategies and make them fit to really supercharge the strategies in general. So that's the Rapid Cash with its bonuses. And there's our great crew again. Man, they're such nice people. Dean Manti showing up for the first time. He's got some great deals to talk to us about.
Okay, you got questions.
All right, let's look at. Hold on, Donna. I'm not quite done. Okay. Not quite done.
Sorry.
I just want you to know, folks, that yes, we all want to make some money, but if you're solving problems and playing for win-win, the money follows along. It really does. It follows along. And so, yeah, those are really my final words. And we've got some questions. So let's go on the questions.
Yes. One from Francis here. What's the exit strategy for an agreement for sale where the buyer still can't qualify for a mortgage at the end of the agreement for sale?
Well, as a buyer going into an agreement for sale where, your exit strategy is to qualify for a mortgage, you need to do some work on that at the beginning. You really need to talk to one of our ACE mortgage brokers who understands agreements for sale and get your laundry list of things that you need to do to qualify. So if you did that and you thought you could qualify, now we're at the end of the deal and you can't qualify. Sellers are often amenable to extending an agreement for sale. Mm-hmm. If you've been good with them, they're often will give you another 1, 2, 3, 5-year extension to the agreement for sale. Sometimes they say, okay, I'll extend for you, but you got to pay me another $5,000. Now, sellers don't have to do that. They don't have to extend, but you might try one of the other strategies. If it was a good deal for you and you still want to buy, you could try and assign your deal to somebody else. Probably you're going to try and sell the property to somebody else. You're not going to assign it because the seller wants his money. So you could try and find a joint venturer. If you've got some equity in there, find a venturer to help you out that might qualify for the mortgage. Mm-hmm. What else, Wayne? Anything else?
That's it. That's it. You can sell your interest in the property, or just sell it because you have control of that property, as you said earlier, right? Now that you have control of that property, you can just sell it on the MLS, sell it privately, or find a joint venture partner who wants to carry the mortgage for you.
And that might be the easiest, because if this was a situation where you've added the property to your portfolio and you had a classic 5-year AFS, guess what you've got? You've got 5 years of track record to be able to say to your joint venture partner, okay, well, this is my property. I control it. What I need is you because I can't qualify for mortgage. But Here is 5 years worth of performance. As you can see, I've got a great positive cash flow property. And so, Mr. Investor Joint Venturer, this is a great property for you to get involved in. That's an easy sell to anybody who likes to write checks.
Yeah. Mark has a question about RTO and taxes and stuff like that. Mark, I'd say that's probably better for another session. If you got any questions, I mean, in regards to that, I'd put it in the create a post in Barry McGuire's Creative Real Estate Education Facebook group, and reach out to the experts that are in the group and get your question answered there. But today we're focusing on
get a more definitive answer than we can do today.
Yeah, for sure. We do have one other question from Andrew here.
Okay, what does Andrew say? With the AFS, when the seller needs to qualify for another mortgage for a new home, what kind of proof can they provide to the lender mortgage broker for debt servicing calculations? Just the AFS contract? Andrew, that's a great question. And that is a question that will be individual to the lender and the mortgage broker that's helping the seller get a new mortgage on a new property. Sometimes it doesn't come up. Sometimes they're happy to see that that there's no debt burden on the seller because the buyer is paying all of the costs. And Donna's pointing out to me, reminding me that a good mortgage broker understands how to deal with that issue. Yeah. And we've got 3 of the best coming to the Rapid Cash event on May 7th and 8th. And I guess the other thing is I think this is one of the things that we thought would come up a lot in AFS deals. What about that seller who wants to go get a new property and get a new mortgage? For lots and lots and lots of these deals, the low equity or no equity deals, one thing the seller is saying to you, you know what? I'm never buying another house as long as I live. That's it for me. Mm-hmm. And so probably 70 to 80% of these deals are low equity, no equity deals. And sellers just aren't looking to get new mortgaging. But I think that's the answer.
Yeah, and when you come out to the Rapid Cash program, that's another reason why to come, is because, one, we'll go deeper into this. Obviously, there's lots of different things you can put in place in order to prevent that from being an issue. And as well, you've got mortgage brokers on site who've literally dealt with this before. And you can connect with them and they'll be able to help you out. But
yeah, the creative financing panel that we do panels of experts, and the creative financing panel, when we have our 3 or 4 mortgage brokers up at the front of the room, they answer questions. It often goes over an hour just on that panel alone. So there's always lots of questions around financing. Any more questions for us, Wayne, or is that's it for tonight?
That's it for tonight. I really liked doing this presentation with you on the no money down fix and flip, because it's something that it wasn't really used so much in the last 5 to 10 years during the negative to flat market, but in Edmonton and Alberta. But as we get into this hotter market where you need to get more creative to stand out with your offers, this is one of those ones that I've been trying to figure out how to implement into my offers. Because if you're just focusing on price, you're going to lose every single time, unless of course you have the highest price. But where you can come in and be creative is adding in extra additional terms that might be able to benefit the seller, or perhaps you can pay that higher price, but you could get terms that benefit you, right? Yeah. As we explained earlier, by getting lower mortgage payments, by getting lower interest rates. So you're going to save money on your holding costs, and therefore it's a little bit easier to pay a little bit over asking price. Yeah. So there's lots of different creative stuff you can use. You can do with these agreement for sales and fix and flip, and obviously everything else we talked about today.
Yeah, we've got some more case studies for exactly that point. So there's lots and lots to talk about, lots and lots to learn. It's
will there be jam?
Will there be jam? Of course, there's going to be jam. There's always jam at a Barry and Donna event. There'll be jars and jars of homemade jam from my backyard. Because that's one of the things I love to do. And when I'm making jam and doing courses, that's my Belize. I love that. So yes, folks, apart from everything else, there'll be lots of homemade jam at my event.
I caught the you did a video promo earlier today, and I saw the backyard. It's looking like it's starting to bud.
It is. Things are starting to bud out. Donna was pointing out to me. I planted, as I said, a bunch of onions yesterday, and things are popping up. Volunteer lettuce. The garlic is 3 inches tall. Things are popping and hopping in my backyard.
Nice.
All right. Well, folks, we've come to the end of tonight's presentation. Please do think about coming to our Rapid Cash event. We'd love to have you there. And on that note, good night, everybody.
Thanks, guys.